discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none. So we've got a correction to the minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes and the letters with the aforementioned approved correction.
Got a motion to approve the minutes and the letters.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion to approve both the minutes with the correction and the letters? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Move on to the first case. All right, we're going to move to the first case, which is O'Reilly Automotive Stores. The applicant wants to come up. If you can read into the record the applicant's rights for an appeal.
Our opening statement to the applicant. If you're not satisfied with the decision made by the Stormwater Management Committee, you may appeal the decision by filing for a writ of certiorari with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the committee's decision. You are advised to seek the independent advice of legal counsel to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been satisfied.
Thank you very much. And with that, let's turn to the staff for a quick summary of the applicant's request.
Sure. Thank you, sir. The first case is case number 2018-00014, O'Reilly Automotive Stores Incorporated, 7194 Whites Creek Pike, parcel number 022-00002900. Inspector is Boots O'Hara. Council Districts 1, Council Member Jonathan Hall. And the applicant's request is to allow the following: disturbance and improvements within the delineated wetland buffer, placement of B&P water quality features in the proposed wetland buffer, and mowing of the buffer. Appellant is S. Pateri, O'Reilly Automotive Stores Incorporated, Representative Bobby Dietz, BFW Engineering and Testing Incorporated. And comments, stormwater staff is questionable whether the proposed mitigation compensates for the resource loss. The codes, no comment provided. Planning, site is zone CL, defer to stormwater for review. Greenways defers to the comments of the Stormwater Management Committee.
Thank you very much. And with that, we'll turn the floor over to the applicant. Okay, I'm Bobby Dietz with BFW Engineering, and I have at my side Susanna Campbell with 5H Technologies. They performed the wetland delineation and the enhancement plan. Started out the project. I had requested a pre-application meeting with Steve. Met with him to discuss stormwater. He looked at some mapping. Mentioned there were some notes that there could be wetlands on the property, so we hired 5H to do a delineation, and so they have delineated the limits of the buffer and the wetland, and then the impacts of our project on those. And then 5H Technologies developed a wetland enhancement plan to help mitigate the loss of wetlands. And what I'd like to do is turn that part over to Susanna and let her talk about what we're going to do for mitigation.
We prepared this plan because basically the existing wetlands on the site, there were some wooded wetlands at the back of the property, and then there were some emergent herbaceous vegetation outside of the wooded area. Basically, there's a lot of invasive species that exist within the wooded area, even though it is a wooded wetland area next to the stream. And so we saw this as a good opportunity to try to enhance that area, get rid of the invasive species, and plant back in some hard mass trees such as oak and hickory species, which are a lot better quality wetland than what's currently existing there. Basically, the plan, we designed it to include wetland trees and some wetland shrubs to create a better stream riparian zone as well.
Okay, thank you.
I think what our intent was take a low-quality wetland and do an enhancement. Even though you're going to end up with less wetland, you're going to end up with a better quality wetland.
Okay. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to or in favor of the applicant's request? Seeing none, let's turn it over to panel discussion and questions. Todd's not here to ask the first question, so I hope someone else stands up.
I'm just curious, like when you have a wetland that has all this invasive species, how do you prevent those from reemerging or coming back? Is there a way to do that?
Well, going forward, what we do a lot of wetland mitigation projects where we start with a project, and a lot of times, especially with like core requirements, they require us to do a 5-year monitoring period, which basically when you have a lot of species like green ash trees, which we do, sweet gums, which we do in this particular project, they want you to keep those out and allow the other trees like oaks and hickories and the good stuff that we put in to develop itself enough to help keep those other species out, because those particular species that we did identify, they just take over and they just completely consume the site.
Exactly.
It makes it a bad
So is a
problem.
monitoring plan included in this proposal to monitor this wetlands for 5 years or whatever? Is that part of the?
Well, it would be as a TDEC requirement.
Okay, so that's
And
basically
Army
part
Corps of
of it.
Engineers would
All right.
require a 5-year.
All right, well, that answers my question. Thank you.
So help me understand, between the existing wetland and the wetlands remaining, how does removing invasive species changes the buffers? So on this one, you have the wetland extends over the parking lot, the buffers do, and then in the other one, it doesn't. So what have you done to?
Well, what we're saying is we're going to do away with that. We're going to eliminate some wetlands and push the buffer closer to the back of the property. And then the wetlands that are remaining, we're going to enhance those.
What's on the site now?
It's vacant. And to look at it, if you stand on the road looking at the site, it's a mowed field, basically. And then you get, at the back, there's a wooded section that has a stream. Just inside, and the stream, it's a very small stream. It's about, I think, 8 feet wide, and the bank is about 3 or 4 inches high. So
In that
it's-
picture right there,
Yeah.
this current wetlands delineation, would that put all those trees that I see within that wetlands area? The ones that are not along the back line, but
I believe so.
Yeah.
Not all of the trees coming forward, but all, like, there's a couple that are
like where the hand is right now.
I believe those two are in,
yes, those
or
two
at
would
least in
be-
the buffer.
Yeah.
And then are you also requesting to mow and maintain the buffer, I guess, is since-
We are. It'd be part of the bioretention basin. That buffer's inside the bioretention basin, so we would be keeping that mowed.
Okay.
It's a little bit inside the top of the levee and down the bank. It's part of that buffer. So I guess you could really look at it, the buffer is still an environmental improvement, you know, where it's working for water quality.
Why do you have to mow on the backside of that bank?
Yeah, we'd probably have to keep at least the spillway open And I would maybe keep it mowed just to keep from trees or things trying to grow up in that levee. And I could refer, back to Metro Water for their advice on that, but at least the spillway we would need to keep open.
Could you repeat what staff's concern was?
Sorry about that. And looking at the removal of the wetland and then just the recreation, we don't really feel that's a buffer that's being recreated at all because it's a stormwater BMP. So we're removing a chunk of wetland. I'm not sure of the exact area. And then the entire wetland buffer, so it no longer really has a buffer since it will be a maintained area and a water quality BMP. So we didn't necessarily feel that the planting plan that they were showing in the stream buffer area was adequate compensation for the removal of the wetland and the wetland buffer.
Did you guys look at doing pervious pavers or anything to get enough credit instead of bioretention?
At this point, we have speculated what we was going to do as far as bioretention. After talking to Steve, we felt like we would wait till see what happened here today before we proceeded further with our design. But our initial design was including this bioretention basin instead of pavers. Where we would end up putting pavers would be where we would have a semi backing through. So
what's the TDEC approval? Where are you with TDEC? As far as
we hadn't even discussed this with TDEC or the Army Corps of Engineers yet. We felt like we need to get past this board first. We feel like if we could get past this meeting today, that we would get our approval from TDEC and Army Corps, even if it meant buying into a mitigation bank or something like that. O'Reilly's would do that.
Okay, so the plan is that worst case scenario with them, they're going to make you buy into a bank, and you're
Yeah.
willing to do that if you can get this approval.
That's right.
And we would not approve anything with final approvals without all other agencies' approvals also.
But this isn't a preliminary request. Typically, we would see this as a preliminary request. That's not what this is.
After meeting with Steve, we felt like we're pretty comfortable if we do the bioretention, we have enough space and everything. So we decided not to do the preliminary, we go straight to final and see if we could get your approval then, because we felt like our design had already moved past the preliminary stage. So we went straight to final.
What other buildings are on this corridor? Is this a residential next door?
Now, right next to us is a Dollar General store to the north.
And on the south?
It's vacant.
It's what?
Vacant.
And
Okay.
it looked to be that they had previously made it into like an older home that they had made into like maybe like a little shop of some sort, but they're not open any currently. Isn't that what you thought?
To the south? Mm-hmm. Yeah, to be honest, I hadn't really looked at what was to the south.
Google Earth images looked like it had been turned into like some type of little clothing shop or something like that. It wasn't a residence.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this is a commercial corridor. It's being developed as a commercial corridor.
Can you zoom out just a little more? I'm trying to figure out where I am here. Is this in Jolton, maybe?
It's in Jolton. As soon as you get off I-24, if you're headed south,
Yeah.
you would take a right, and it's maybe an eighth of a mile on the left.
Okay.
Is it possible to, I'm going to go back to this chart, so I don't know if we can pull these up, but to continue some of that buffer, excuse me, there's only about 3 or 4 parking spaces that are in the buffer right now, and there's still a lot of area around it on the bottom there, where the yellow is, on the top chart, but
It would take,
the existing wetlands limit, the top one, so where the bottom yellow is, all that area there, the yellow and the green, could not that be continued as a buffer and just go a little bit around your parking spaces, but continue all that into?
well, because that buffer also impacts the drive aisle, it would eliminate, looks to me like 10 parking spaces. Right now, we have just enough parking spaces without having to ask for any variances.
Based on O'Reilly's requirements, not
No,
Metro's?
city requirements, city ordinance, city zoning. Takes 37 parking spaces, and we have 37.
I'm not suggesting eliminating parking, I'm suggesting extending the buffer around the parking spaces on the south side of the property.
Oh,
You've cut a big chunk of it off, there's additional space there.
possibly, that would be an area that we is anticipating mowing. Part of that takes in that forebay area for the bioretention basin. I think I would look for, a recommendation from this board or from Metro Water if they wanted us to extend that buffer area into something that's not being impacted by, improvements, permit improvement.
I don't know, others, if we could recapture some of that buffer area?
It would still, we'd end up disturbing it because we're going to have to put fill in there. It would just be however we left it when we got done. If, just looking at that would be a section where we could plant some trees or some kind of plantings or something and not possibly mow it if they preferred.
What's the quality of the wetland? As far as you determine?
The emergent wetland it's just some herbaceous, grassy type stuff. It's not very good quality. The forested wetland, in my personal opinion, from doing the assessments, even though it's forested, is not a great quality because it's full of green ash trees and sweet gums and not very good trees that we like to see in a good quality wetland. And the stream is what we consider a suboptimal, excuse me, let me look at my notes here on this. It was a marginal stream, which is basically was just stormwater runoff whenever there was a storm event.
So it's only got the stream only has water in it when there's a storm event?
That is when we did the assessment where it appeared. There were some areas that had low spots that would retain some water, but not very. It was a very flat bottom stream.
I just wanted to clarify for the committee too. I don't know if you're able to discern from the maps, but there's the stream buffer in addition to the wetland buffer. It shows up.
The red line in the top picture?
The red line, yeah, exactly. So you've essentially got a stream buffer and then an additional wetland buffer, just for clarity, right?
Can I see that aerial view again? Maybe the GIS whatever. Sort of zoom in on this parcel like you had it before.
Does the delineated wetland coincide with the stream buffer line? It's hard to tell.
The new one?
It does. It does. The stream, what we did, we honored the stream buffer line is basically where we started our design from for the bioretention. So that stream buffer line also become the new wetland line limit.
Okay.
try to zoom it out just a little bit so I can see the Dollar General too. Yeah.
This whole wetlands area, existing wetlands area outside of the tree line, it's all being mowed right now?
It is,
Continuous base?
yeah.
So just to help my ignorance, the reason it's part of the wetlands is because it's in a condition, a wet condition during most times of the year. I mean, it doesn't look like what I would think of as wetlands. So explain to me how come that part would become part of the delineation?
Basically, it's low-lying enough that it's right adjacent to the woods, and so it still maintains moisture and hydrology. And so because the water's there and it can sit for longer periods of time, then you develop the soils that are characteristic of wetlands, and all of the vegetation has certain ratings, and it is also classified as wetland vegetation. And then just outside of that emergent line, you can tell the soil's changed and it got drier, and that's why it didn't go all the way down. Does that
So it
help?
takes on water enough that it's changed the soil type and it's changed the type of vegetation that's growing in it?
Yes.
Even though when I'm looking at it in that picture, it looks like the same grass throughout the rest of the property.
Right.
Okay.
So would you expect the TDEC would label this as a low-quality wetland?
We hope so, because that's when we did our assessment, that's what we feel that it is, especially with all the invasive species.
What makes this difficult is typically the TDEC stuff's happened. And so when they come here, they're telling us the TDEC's already told them it's low quality.
I see.
And we've got some kind of at least analysis from somebody that outside of the applicant, obviously, that tells us that, look, this is, the stuff shouldn't have been wetlands, first, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And here we're not getting that, and so it's a little uncomfortable granting something that.
Well, we know that we can't mitigate on site, and so no matter how they look at this, and they put a factor of whatever they think that this qualifies at, that we're just going to buy into a mitigation bank. So what we're going to do is, if we do get approval from this board, obviously they're going to ask, and we'll say, well, we got approval, we're just going to look to pay into a mitigation bank. This is what we have, and we're going to permit it that way.
And so the next question for this board is whether or not your hardship justifies your development.
Correct.
And whether or not, something else needs, if truly it takes this many parking spaces for O'Reilly's, which surprises me.
Yeah.
Then perhaps an O'Reilly's isn't the best development of this property. So.
I want to ask a question about process,
Okay.
if that's okay. How we struggle through this. So when you looked at this site, and I guess was this shown on Metro's GIS as the little blue line? And what prompted you to actually do the delineation? Were you required to do that?
Yeah, if you look at the wetland inventory map, it doesn't show any wetlands.
Right.
And so when I was looking at stormwater design, I talked to Steve.
Okay.
And we went ahead and set up a meeting. And so I was in his office, and we were discussing it, and he pulled up a map. I don't know what it was.
Okay.
But he says, hey, listen, I've got some notes on a map that says we had boots on the ground at some point that said there could be wetlands on this
Okay.
parcel. He says, you're going to have to get this delineated. And so that's why I called 5H,
All
and that's what started
right.
the
All right.
process. If you walked out there, even someone that even knows wetlands maybe a little bit might not recognize there as wetlands there, because it's just mowed, and you look in the trees, you don't see the wetland trees, you see these other species of trees. So
So the only reason is someone had been there before and had sort of said there may be something there, and that's why you went to this exercise. Otherwise, if you hadn't gone to the exercise, you might not even be here. So you get your nose cut off despite your face.
well,
more or
I'm
less.
guessing that when I submitted my drawings, Steve would have looked at his map then and says, hey, wait a minute, you might have wetlands, we'd already
Right.
been done with our design. So
I got it.
I'm
And
glad
so
that
I
we
think based upon
tried
that,
on the front end. So.
Yeah, I'm pretty well convinced this is a very low quality wetland. I mean, this doesn't show up on a map. I think the only evidence is the fact that maybe the Dollar General was constructed, someone was out there, someone saw something. And so I'm like the chairman, I think that this committee sort of wants to know the quality of that wetland, and I'm pretty well convinced that it's very low quality wetland, and so I'm generally comfortable, but I think that's what led you to this point, obviously.
I'm not saying this because I'm trying to get this permitted.
Yeah.
I'm saying this, my professional opinion and hers too. You're going to get a bigger bang for your buck by letting us eliminate some of these wetlands that are low quality and enhance what's there.
So I guess the only question would be then on this detention pond, on this embankment, if there's something you could do there that wouldn't require mowing. I mean, is there something that Metro requires that no trees be placed on that embankment, Steve, because of what it's being used for?
Yeah, but it's only a 3-foot.
Yeah. Okay.
So typical, we traditionally have issues with maintenance of whatever it is.
Right.
Whether it's a bioretention or detention pond. So anything that disrupts the maintenance is never a good thing because we seldom get it anyway.
Okay.
But if you let the grasses grow up on the back side of the embankment, I mean, that doesn't affect maintenance.
It's just to make sure the spillway's functioning properly, more or less.
And it's just the top. You don't have to do the back side.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could add, I think one of the other things, maybe not indicative on a site like this, is just getting trees on a berm of a pond that could blow over at some point in the root bar.
Yeah,
the
that's
root
true.
ball compromising the pond. So.
Yeah.
But maybe if we could vegetate it with something that doesn't require continual mowing and maintenance.
Right.
And I'm, Dodd knows more about that than I do. I would have no idea what to tell you to plant there. So I can't even cater a motion based upon that. But I think that would be beneficial. And if you have any suggestions, let me know.
A lot of times you'll do at least an annual mowing to keep from, eventually seedlings are going to get started on that, and you would want to do that just to keep trees from going in there. If you don't mow it at all, eventually trees are going to start growing on that.
And did you say there was a 5-year plan for invasive removal and maintenance on this site?
Typically, the projects that I've been involved in, when you do a mitigation to a wetland or disturbance of wetland, that they make you monitor it for 5 years.
Would you submit that as part of our?
We could make that a condition as approval
Okay.
from Metro that we submit, all our other permits before we could get final approval, if that'd be all right with Steve, and the 5-year monitoring plan.
And this is maybe getting a little bit far out, but in the event the committee were to approve it, I would be interested in how this would be communicated to the eventual owner, because in 5 years, you're probably going to have an entirely different group of folks overseeing the parcel and overseeing the maintenance.
Yeah, well, you're right. That it would be left up to the store manager typically is what happens.
But I assume that you can contract with an environmental company right now.
We would. That's what we've done in the past.
Compensate them and make sure that they're on board and they know what to do at the right time.
Yeah. Well, we're the civil engineer for O'Reilly's, so we could make it part of our scope of work to do the monitoring system, and then we got a calendar we set up that notifies us that that's up, and then we would send somebody there to check it out and to see if there's anything that's got to be done, or we would hire 5H to do something like that. So we could easily put something in place to do that. It could follow up with a report to this board or to Metro Water that was done.
If I could ask Steve a question, on what gets recorded against this, would that level of detail be something that would be included, say an annual mowing of certain areas of a buffer?
So not traditionally it gets that detailed, but we could, if placed as a condition of approval, it could be added to the maintenance agreement for the buffer section. Would the store manager ever look at the maintenance agreement? I don't know. Like you mentioned, that would entail some communication between applicants, engineers, and the people who run the business.
that would probably be where our staff would come in at that point. We do have the handy-dandy GIS viewer tool that shows all of these things online conveniently, so hopefully that helps. But we are trying to give more attention to the long-term maintenance of these controls and making sure the responsible parties are aware. And on things like this, sometimes that continuity can be difficult for the eventual owner.
I don't know that really changes the formula.
More questions, discussions, panel? Anybody want to make a move?
I'm still a little skeptical about the parking standards and requirements. I don't know why. I'm autistic, okay? So, and what's that based upon? Retail?
Yeah, retail. And I
Is
meant
that
to bring
retail
a
one
site
for
plan. I usually,
150? What is retail requirement? Is there one for 200?
well, I didn't bring my site plan with me. I
Okay.
plotted it out and left it in the plotter. But it's based on the use of the store, so many square feet.
I got that. I just don't know what the standard is. I assume it's considered retail.
It's going to be,
But you also have warehouse space, I assume, or stock space in there that shouldn't count as retail. And so you would think that would reduce your requirements.
yeah, we've calculated it. It takes 37 parking spaces.
Okay?
Obviously, O'Reilly doesn't need 37 parking spaces. No. And we know that, but that's what the zoning ordinance requires.
And I think that's what just difficult for me with this property. The variance is supposed to be based on a hardship. And you make a good argument for why what you're doing is sufficient, but at the same time, there has to be a hardship for the variance in the first place. And
Yeah,
although O'Reilly's does seem like a good use for this property, and maybe that should be what we should be able to go on here, this amount of parking doesn't seem to be necessary, and so therefore there are a lot of different uses for this property that you wouldn't have to do this. That said, if someone came in here and talked about, T-deck, had reviewed it and plotted it, then it makes it easier for us to stomach. But I think that's why you're not seeing anybody make a motion to approve.
I see.
Yeah, well, I'm just struggling with it because there may be other options. I mean, I assume you could go to the Board of Zoning Appeals and ask for a reduction in parking. I mean, that would be another option as well. So now reduce the parking. I'm not sure that totally solves your problem. It may not, but without having a little more information about the quality of the wetland, I think I'm just struggling with it. I mean, I want to help you. I really do, but.
Well, and I appreciate this discussion, but I guess where I stand, I would not be in favor of approving, just based on, I'm not sure there is a hardship. I'm just not sure this is the best use for this property if you have to have 37 spots.
The property is very narrow, and you can see by just to fit this in there, I mean, we're literally just feet away from the property line on each side. Someone else to develop something else on here, it's going to be a very small building. It requires hardly any parking. It'd be tough for anybody to develop this property without asking some kind of a variance. O'Reilly's, typically we can develop on around 0.85 acres, and this site is 1.14. Just unfortunately, there's about a fourth of it that's impacted by wetlands and buffer. And again, if it wasn't for the parking requirement of requiring 37 spaces, we wouldn't have parking at the back of the building knowing that nobody's going to use that parking.
How many parking spaces does O'Reilly require?
Typically, again, we always try to match the zoning ordinance. Riley's doesn't like to ask for variances if they don't have to.
Sure.
So if it's easier for them to go ahead and pay the money and build it to meet the requirements than try to go through that process. So typically, we're somewhere between 30 and 35 is typically where we're at.
What's the
most ordinances?
Do they have a minimum, though? I mean, it sounds like whatever the
Whatever
authorities
the
are
zoning
asking
ordinance
more
is.
than more than
I don't know if I've ever done one less than 25,
Okay.
27, something like that.
I think I would encourage you to go back and talk to codes about the parking, because it is 1 per 200 for retail, and I think the fact that you do have areas in there that you're storing things, I think you could get a reduction in the parking. And so based upon that, I would either suggest that you defer this, or we'll make a motion most likely to disapprove. So, your choice.
I would like a deferment before without,
I want you to, I would prefer that you would explore the options
Okay.
of going to codes and pleading your case as far as the actual retail space that you use. There's a lot of storage in there. I would think that you should be able to get some type of reduction there, and then maybe begin the process with TDEC to qualify or, give us a little more information about the quality of the wetland.
I think that's a reasonable request.
Okay.
I mean, we had to get a variance from somebody.
And you may be able to, I don't know that you require variance from codes. I think that you'll be able to talk to them about a reduction of parking. I really do.
Okay.
But if not, yeah, you can do a parking study or whatever, provide them with what it takes to run your type of facility, and they'll probably help you. But that's what I think it's going to take for you to get any kind of positive recommendation from this committee based upon what I'm seeing.
So we explore that, and then if they don't allow us to do a reduction in parking, then we can come back to this board.
But only after you go to TDEC, I think, in order to
Okay,
get
we'll
a
do
little
that.
more information.
Okay.
My suggestion would be that do that too.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
makes it easier at this level if that's done.
Okay.
So as the applicant going to request a deferral,
Yeah,
is that
is
how
that
that
what
would work?
so-
Yeah,
you want?
I'll request a deferral. We'll explore the reduction in parking.
Okay.
We'll get the TDEC approval, Army Corps of Engineers, and then if
Okay.
we have to, we'll come back. Hopefully not.
That sounds awesome.
Do we have to take a vote on their request for a deferral? All right, there's a motion on the floor. I'll make a motion that we allow the applicant to defer this request. Do I hear a second?
I second that motion.
Got a motion on the table. Any discussion on the motion for a deferral? Seeing none, a vote. All in favor of granting the deferral request? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none. Request has been deferred. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Thanks.
If the next applicant would like to come up, take a seat at the table. Good morning. Just want to make sure that all of you were here when the statement was read into the record at the very beginning of the meeting. Wonderful. Then we don't need to do that step again. And we'll turn to staff for a summary of the request.
Thank you, Chairman. Case number 2 is 2018-00018, Athens Way multifamily at 0 Athens Way. The inspector is Boots O'Hara. Parcel number is 07012001100. This is in Council District 2, Mr. DaCosta Hastings. The applicant's request is to allow the following. 1, to allow filling of 0.78 acres of low-quality wetland and associated buffers to construct multifamily residential development. 2, to allow disturbance within the 15-foot Zone 1 and 10-foot Zone 2 pond buffers for improvements to the Amulet Lake bank. 3, continuous mowing and maintenance within the Amulet Lake buffer. The appellant is Wood Caldwell with Southeast Ventures Metro Center 4 LLC, being represented by Matt Schlicker with Kimley Horn. Stormwater staff comments were the reforestation, additional TDUs, tree density units, and permeable pavements will have a positive impact on water quality. However, staff is unsure whether the proposed mitigation compensates for the resource loss. Codes provided no comments. Planning said the site is zoned MUG, and Greenway defers to comments from the Stormwater Management Committee. Thank you.
Have we looked at this before? I know we looked at a lot of stuff in Metro Center. Do you recall ever looking at this site before?
I don't recall this site, but I recall that we looked at several other sites
Right.
within
Okay.
this area.
All right, thank you.
And Steve, I believe this site had a mass grading permit before?
I do believe that there was some mass grading outside of the buffers at one time.
Thank you. Before we turn it over to the applicant, Mr. Caldwell, I've known for years and years, and we've done work together. He called a few days ago to talk to me about this, and I explained to him we weren't allowed to do that. And so I did want to let everybody know that he called, and I told him that, hey, we're not allowed to talk about this. But, so that said, we'll turn it over to the applicant for his presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members of the committee, for your time and consideration of the request. I'd like to start off by introducing the team, first of all, and then turn it over to Wood. So first of all, Mr. Wood Caldwell with Southeast Venture, of course, and then Mr. Jacob Shalley and Ms. Lori Spearing with Embry Partners. Mr. Jeff Rosiak with Gamble Design is here, representing the landscape architect. Mr. Jimmy Groton with NSAFE, the environmental scientist, is also here. And then Mr. Ryan McMaster and myself with Kimley Horn, representing the civil engineer on the project. So with that, I'll turn it over to Wood for a brief history of the Metro Center area.
Thanks, Matt. I just want to give you all a quick history, a little bit about Metro Center. It was developed about 40 years ago, and it was primarily an industrial and office park. It was very unique in that it was only about a mile from downtown Nashville. But over the years, and Southeast Venture has been directly involved as a company the last 20 years, and one of our partners has been involved with Metro Center for the last 35 years, and we've developed many sites there. So, Mr. Dale, you answer your question, although this site has not come before this board, we've had 3 other sites come before this board requesting for the same request. Again, it's very unique, and then as Nashville's grown, and what's happened is become more of a residential mixed-use, a mixed-use commercial park with residential and office primarily, with some retail along the main arteries. Southeast Venture has developed about 225,000 square feet on 3 different sites, all of which came before this board to get the same kind of approval we're requesting today. That was in 2008, 11, and 12. And 2 of those sites are literally right across the lake from this site, where the Health Spring development is. The other interesting thing, this is one of the last sites to be developed, and we are working with Embry with their project to develop this project. Just going back a little bit, I noticed some history. This has gone through 3 ARAP processes. The first one was in 1997, and there was a much bigger piece that was requested, and the mitigation that was proposed and accepted by TDEC at the time was that we actually developed a 7-acre wetlands that abuts Amulet Lake about 500 feet from this site. But at the time, the site was all one tract, and now it's been subdivided in 3 other tracts, and 2 of those have been developed. So this is the last one to be developed. So there was an on-site mitigation where we developed a wetlands that's still there. And then back in 2007, we came back with a proposed plan that eventually got developed on another site, but went to TDEC again for ARAP, and we got approval again there. And at that time, the mitigation was off-site credits. And now we're back in 2018, and we have gotten TDEC's approval, with the mitigation being for a 2-to-1 for off-site credits. The other thing I want to talk about is the highest and best use for this property. Makes it a little unusual. And if you haven't traveled down into Metro Center, there's been 2 other really nice apartment projects have been developed. And what makes it kind of unique is that you're a mile from downtown Nashville, because of values in the Metro Center area. The developers are able to develop with on-site parking instead of decks, and so it's lowered the rents, makes it very compatible. And then what's happened in Germantown now, you're literally, you can walk from the Metro Center area from an apartment with lower rents to get access to the downtown area. And as y'all know, Metro Center's got over 10,000 employees, so this is also providing housing for those employees. Matt's going to get into more of the hardship, but I know one of the major hardships, and this kind of ties in with the history, when this project was originally looked at by the Matthews Company 40 years ago, and the Aladdin Company, who was the original developer, it was this whole area, most of it, probably about 75% of it, was excavated and used for clay pit. The clay pits were dug out, and the clay was used for making bricks at Herbert Brick Company, which is right over in the Germantown area. And so to backfill all of those pits, they used dirt and then glass from the Ford glass plant. So if you actually go out, and this site is one of those sites, so if you go out on the site, you'll see little pebbles of glass, you know, the ones that wouldn't make the requirement, and then they break them and then bring them out there and use it as fill. Unfortunately, we don't have a structural engineer who's figured out how to use the structural glass or the glass as possible fill. So what happens is you have to excavate a major portion of this site, or you have to fill it to get to the appropriate structural capacity for any kind of structure. So across the lake, Southeast Venture, we had to literally excavate the building pad 10 feet and come back with crushed stone, and then the parking lots all had to be excavated by about 2.5 feet. This site's a little different because it's residential, so there is major excavation, but they're also building up. So that just gives you a little history and a hardship of what we're having to deal with. So from there, Matt, I'm going to turn over to you.
All right, thanks, Wood. I'd like to start off by building on Wood's description and talking a little bit about the project itself. And so it's if approved, it would be a 300-unit multifamily development with the purpose, as Wood mentioned, of providing an economic housing option for Nashville residents that work either in the Metro Center area or in the downtown area. And we're able to do that by accomplishing it entirely surface parked. So there's no parking garages, and that allows us to provide the economic housing option. This project has a couple unique, cool features. It has a close connection to the Cumberland River Greenway, which provides a great active transportation option for the residents. It has a variety of high-quality, natural, and constructed amenities that sort of enhance the living experience for the residents, including Amulet Lake and some of the other things that we'll discuss going forward. The project's being undertaken by Southeast Venture and Embry, who both have a strong track record of delivering high-quality multifamily and mixed-use projects, both here in Nashville and around the Southeast. And we're working with partners in this case that recognize the importance of creating value not only from a financial standpoint, but also from a social and community standpoint, and importantly, from an environmental standpoint as well. So with that, I'd like to get to our variance request and an overview of our mitigation. Our variance is really two different components, and the first is a request for impacts to the pond buffer associated with Amulet Lake. And the second is related to impacts to low-quality isolated wetlands that exist in the center of the site. We've put together what we believe is a pretty robust mitigation plan, all of which goes above and beyond the minimum water quality requirements in Metro. And the key elements of that plan are first of all, we are purchasing wetland mitigation credits, rather, at a ratio of 2 to 1. We're installing 0.8 acres of permeable pavement. We're creating 0.6 acres of reforestation area near the lake. And we're providing enhanced landscaping, so 50% above the minimum tree density unit requirements is what we're proposing. So first, I'd like to get into a little bit more detail on the pond buffer impacts. And there's an image in the narrative that we provided that shows the existing conditions of the lake bank. And what you might see there, it's a 6 to 9 foot drop off, all exposed earth that goes straight into the edge of water. It's a condition that's prone to erosion and subsidence, and we also believe it represents sort of an unsafe condition with the drop off for either a residential or really any sort of development on this site. There's been a similar condition really around Amulet Lake, and those have been mitigated in the past by the installation of a simple riprap revetment with mowed grass on top. But in meeting with Stormwater staff, we decided to go a different route, and that is we're proposing a biostabilized lake bank, which includes a gradual 3 to 1 or less slope up from the edge of water. It includes natural coconut fiber erosion control matting to stabilize that slope. And it also includes the installation of live stakes or native live plantings to further stabilize that slope. It's important to note that we don't have any impervious area or buildings proposed within either the Zone 1 or Zone 2 buffer. And in fact, the closest location we have is the planned north corner of that building close to the lake. And that is 35 feet away from the edge of water. So, of course, well above the 25-foot Zone 1 and Zone 2 buffer. And you'll notice that really the majority of it is much further than that, the impervious area and building, more like 50 or 100 feet away from the edge of water. So we understand that we need a variance for any disturbance in the buffer, but we really see this as more of a drainage enhancement, and we believe that the proposed plan goes above and beyond certainly what would be the minimum required to stabilize the bank, and also above and beyond what has been approved in different areas around the lake. So with that, I'll sort of switch gears and discuss the wetland impact. And I'd like to say, first of all, that we've sort of checked all the permitting boxes up to this point. So we've done a hydrologic determination, and that identified the presence of isolated low-quality wetlands in the center of the project. We submitted that determination to the Corps and to TDEC, and both of those agencies have concurred. So in the case of the Corps, they don't take jurisdiction over this wetland, and in the case of TDEC, they accepted it as a low-quality wetland. We subsequently submitted a ARAP, and that has been approved already by TDEC. And the public notice for the ARAP specifies the wetland as a low-value resource. So I'd like to touch base on a couple things before I get into the specifics of the mitigation plan. And the first is the characterization as a low-quality resource. That comes primarily from three factors. And the first is that it's completely isolated. There's no connection to other waters of the state or any waters of the U.S. The second is that the environmental report documented a lack of species diversity and a presence of invasive species. And the third thing is that these wetlands are not accepting any off-site run-on. So it's not being serving a purpose as a treatment measure, if you will, for any off-site impervious area. So that's, of course, not to say that there's no inherent value to the wetland, but based on the opinions of the environmental scientists and the concurrence of TDEC, it's recognized on the very low end of the quality spectrum. And again, Mr. Jimmy Groten is here and can answer any questions specifically related to the hydrologic determination. So next, I'd like to touch on the question of hardship and avoidance. First of all, you'll notice that the wetlands are located pretty much in the center north of the site. So in a no-impact development alternative, that results in sort of a narrow U-shaped area that would be available. And it doesn't allow enough space or the ability for effective surface parking or some of the other critical elements of a development like this, such as emergency access and things like that. The second crucial, unique aspect of developments in Metro Center is that, as you know, it's a levee-protected area. So that means that the Corps specifies minimum elevations, building elevations for development in Metro Center. In this case, our minimum building elevation is 410, and the wetlands are down at 403. So just in order to make up that difference, there's a good bit of additional space that's taken up in making up that grade. And also in a no-impact development alternative with the buildings up at 410 and the wetland down at 4.3, it would leave the wetlands in sort of a hole relative to the rest of the development. And we didn't feel like that created value from either an environmental standpoint or for a smart development standpoint. The last thing I'd like to touch on before getting into the mitigation plan is just our baseline water quality strategy. And we initially started off with an entirely low-impact development stormwater management plan, including lots of bioretention area around the site. And as we had progressed with that design, we got some information from the geotechnical engineer indicating that there was the presence of high groundwater, and that was based on readings over a 4-month period, so it wasn't just a single reading. And after meeting with Stormwater, it was sort of with their recommendation that we ended up going with 3 80% TSS removal water quality units throughout the site to avoid that conflict between the high groundwater and the section of the bioretention areas. So again, we have 3 TSS, 80% TSS removal water quality units, and 100% of the impervious area on our site is routed through those units, meaning that everything that I'm about to talk about with the mitigation plan is all above and beyond that minimum water quality requirement. So with that, I'll get into the mitigation plan. There's a 5-part plan that we've put together, and the first is, as Wood had mentioned before, in 1997, there was a a wetland restoration and enhancement project on 7 acres that occurred about 500 feet from this project site. This was documented and approved by TDEC, and it was done with the documented purpose of offsetting future impacts to wetlands in the adjacent parcels, including the parcel that we're looking at right now. The second piece of our mitigation plan is the purchase of 1.56 credits, wetland mitigation credits. That's a 2-to-1 mitigation to impact ratio, and that's at an active TDEC permitted site called the Swamp Road 2 wetland mitigation site, located in Eagleville, Tennessee. The next 3 elements are all directly on-site mitigation measures. So the first is the installation of 0.8 acres of permeable pavement. The permeable pavement is, of course, recognized as an effective method of stormwater treatment, and we have designed the permeable pavement per the standards in the Metro LID manual. The second element of the on-site mitigation is 0.6 acres of reforestation, and that's all located directly adjacent to the lake. That will be planted per the Metro LID manual, again, per the recommendations of the manual, at a rate of 300 canopy trees or equivalent plantings per acre. So it'll be a pretty robustly planted area that will serve as a buffer between the development and the lake, and we think will be an effective method of stormwater management. The final element of the mitigation plan is enhanced landscaping. And so we're proposing to provide half again as much as the minimum tree density units on this site. So 50% more landscaping than the baseline required by Metro Landscaping Code. So to wrap things up, again, if approved, this project would be a 300-unit multifamily project with the intent of providing economic housing options for Nashville residents that work either in Metro Center or downtown. But due to the unique and site-specific hardships created by the location and quality, the low-quality wetlands, isolated wetlands on the center of the site, in combination with the Metro Center-specific grading requirements, we're seeking a variance in order to achieve those goals. To compensate for those impacts, we've put together what we believe is a robust and comprehensive mitigation plan that we believe goes well beyond the baseline standard of mitigating equal to the impact. And really, we're excited about this project, and we believe that it offers significant benefits both to the community and also really significant water quality and environmental benefits as opposed to the no-impact development alternative. So we respectfully request your approval of the variance and are happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I'd like to make just one last comment. I'm very proud to say in 2010, the levee held.
With that, is there anyone here to speak either in favor, against, or opposed to the applicant's request? Seeing no one, let's turn it over to this committee for discussion and any questions we have for the applicant or staff.
Have y'all talked to the council member at all about this?
We have.
Yeah, could you elaborate on that for me?
Well, we just obviously made him aware of what was going on, and we worked with him to rezone this property, Roy.
It's my understanding, I'd like to know staff's understanding too, to make sure that all of this area at one point in time was regraded. So this wetlands area is something that's man-made from grading that has occurred on this site in the past. Is that correct?
I do not know that. I'm not sure if MPDS or the applicant knows, but I'm not aware.
Yes, I think that's why I was talking. I may not have done a very good job of trying to talk about the history. So this particular site was excavated over 10 feet at one point, and then fill came back in. And that was probably back in the late 60s when all that occurred. But all of Metro Center was done that way. I'd say that 75% of it. There's still one remaining site that's farther south that was not done that way. But this particular area around Amulet Lake was all excavated. The sites across the lake and the Titans Stadium, those were all excavated for the clay and then came back with the fill.
So that was all done for purposes of was that done as a mass grading project?
Yes, basically as a mass grading project. And then obviously when Metro Center became a development, then most of these sites were fairly kept during the process of the sale of these sites. Mowed, that kind of thing.
I guess, was this site ever associated with a past ARAP that was granted and
Yes.
built? This particular site, was it, before it was divided up into its own parcel?
Yes. In
Was it part of-
2007, we went and got an ARAP and were given approval at that point. We had a proposed project that did not come about.
An ARAP on this particular wetland?
Yes. Yes.
So this exact same wetland had an
Yes.
ARAP granted in 2007
That's right.
for a development that was going to be on this parcel, but
Right.
but the development never went.
Never happened. It actually went a little farther south project. So, yes. And so we never had to come to this board because the project never went forward. So, but we did go ahead and get it permitted by TDEC. Mike Lee, working with Mike.
So when this particular parcel was mass graded or filled, that was in the 60s, 70s?
Yep.
And that's before there was ever a proposed development or a mass grading for the area?
Yes.
So it was filled within
Yes.
that context?
Right.
Okay.
And then the site became a development in the early 70s. And it's kind of interesting, Mr. Severe, all the infrastructure was put in at one time. So all the roads, water, sewer, the canals, Amulet Lake, which was a big detention area, and the canals that are right across Great Circle Road were all built accordingly at that time, same time.
Anyone?
I mean, I'm probably the oldest person in here. I hate to admit that, but, and I'm really familiar with Metro Center. My first job when I graduated from college was Metro Public Works, and that was 1974. And so most of these areas in Metro Center that have these little wetlands, they were created. There was a lot of grading that occurred down there. The site remains dormant for a long period of time, and this occurs. So I think what you've done is a pretty good plan. I didn't ask. I'm just curious. I mean, is there any affordability in these 300 units? Are some of these affordable units? I heard you use a different word, economic, whatever, but
Right.
I'm just curious, is there any workforce housing in here?
Not as it relates to, the specific characterization of affordable and workforce housing under, metro ordinances. But again, the goal is to provide a lower cost of rent based on the fact that it's surface parked, it's further away from downtown, and so a better value, but not
Okay. Well,
specifically.
I don't know
under
if
that
it's,
umbrella.
something that we necessarily consider, but something I was just curious about. So I think you've done a good job. I will recommend approval of your variance request as submitted. I don't remember if there was anything that staff had concerns about or anything they wanted added.
Mr. Chairman, if I could make one sort of technical point, and maybe ask the applicants, technical folks, to consider this. The roundabout pervious paving, sometimes with those, where those shear stresses with vehicles turning, that makes that a little bit problematic. So I would just suggest your engineers look at that, and if there is maybe a better place than just that where there's going to be turning. I don't know if that's where your moving trucks and delivery trucks are going to be coming in, but that, I think, long-term would probably save you some issues, because sometimes those can get pushed up.
That's a great recommendation, and we'll take that into account and possibly move those pavers.
So just, I guess, what I would be thinking to be a similar, the square footage would stay the same, just consider if that roundabout needs to be moved, that area.
Why are the Zone 1 and Zone 2 on the lake only 10 and 15 feet? I always thought that's 25. Why is it so low? Is that what it is on a, what's the classification that gives it 10 and 15?
That it's a pond and not a lake.
Oh.
So the pond is a two-zone buffer, 15 and 10 foot.
Okay. Because typically it's in a development like this where it's a man-made pond in the first place, and there's just different analysis goes on. Okay. And what's the disruption that has to happen in the buffer? Why the continuous mowing, for one?
Really, well, to answer your first question, the disturbance is really just to improve that condition, to get rid of the drop-off and take care of the erosion and subsidence and things like that. So that's why we're getting in there. The continuous mowing and maintenance is a good question. We included that with the request, but as I mentioned, it's a part of the reforestation area, and we plan to have some plantings down there. So I don't think, or I can say definitively that the intent isn't to be mowing down there, but maybe just do some light maintenance and maintain that buffer area so that it doesn't become sort of completely overgrown.
Are you gonna plant grasses in down there?
That whole area, the buffer area, will be a variety of plantings, shrubs, trees, and things like that. And then the reforestation area will be all a variety of canopy trees and plantings in there as well. So it won't be like a mowed grass lawn area.
Okay, so it will not be a mowed grass lawn area in either of the zones?
Correct.
Okay.
So I guess I started a motion. But I also want to add to that motion, they are doing wetland banking, is that correct? Purchasing wetlands. So I think that's proper mitigation for what you're doing here. And so again, I'll renew my motion to approve this based upon the plan that is submitted. Do we need to include your comments as far as the impervious pavement in this?
I think that's probably our decision.
Yeah, okay.
But certainly well noted
Okay.
request. But
So anyway, that's my request.
I'll second.
we've got a motion and a second on the table to approve as submitted, I believe.
All right.
Yeah. So open any discussion among the committee. All right, seeing none, I'll add for the record and for the letter that consistent with most of the development in the metro area that we've seen, at least 2 to 3 projects over the past 5 years, multi-housing, I think maybe all of them, with these types of wetlands that have been determined low quality by TDEC, granted ARAPs,
And the backstory on all of them, based on my recollection, is that they're man-made wetlands. For that reason, the variance meets the hardship requirements as we've interpreted them over the past time I've been on this panel. With that, any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll put it up for a vote. All in favor of the variance request, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, the request is granted. Thanks, guys. We'll move on to the next and last applicant, Novel Nashville West. Thank you. Were you here earlier at the beginning of the meeting when we read the statement on writs of certiorari?
Yes, sir.
Okay, wonderful. Then we don't have to do that step again. We'll go ahead and move to the staff summary of the applicant's request.
Thank you, Chairman. Case number 3 today is 2018-00019, Novell Nashville West at 7113 Charlotte Pike. The NPDES inspector is Lee Nelson. The parcel number is 10213-000301. This is Council District 22, being represented by Vice Mayor Sherry Weiner. The applicant's request, number 1, 263 linear feet of Zone 1 stream buffer impact. 2, installation of 116 linear feet of impervious surface within the Zone 2 stream buffer. 3, continuous mowing and maintenance of the Zone 1 stream buffer along the western frontage of the property. And number 4, waiver of stream buffer signs installed along the western frontage of the property. The appellant is Michael Schmerling of Schmerling Partners, being represented by Brendan Bowles of Kimley Horn. Stormwater staff comments: the conversion of the Zone 2 buffer to a Zone 1 on the northern stream segment helps mitigate the buffer loss due to the sidewalk. Staff does not support mowing the Zone 1 buffer adjacent to the sidewalk. Codes provided no comments. Planning site is zoned CS, defer to stormwater, and Greenway also defers to stormwater. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. With that, we'll hand the floor to the applicant for his presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Brendan Bowles with Kimley Horn Associates here in Nashville, Tennessee, representing the property owner for this buffer variance application. This property consists of, I believe, five parcels, so it's also 7115, 7113, the 1033, 1029, 7025, and 7023. So generally all of those that you see on your map, we do not have under contract the 7105 or the 7101 parcels, which you see the stream continue along those frontages there. So the stream is existing, obviously. There's Zone 1 and Zone 2 buffers based on the drainage area. We've delineated those buffers. This is for a approximately 400-unit multifamily development here for this site. We are gaining access for the property from Hapwood on the rear and also along Charlotte Pike on the western frontage. And as part of our traffic impact study for the project, we are required to install a westbound left-hand turn lane to provide better access to the site and, keep westbound traffic moving instead of having somebody sitting there trying to turn left and clogging up the traffic there. So the installation and the widening of the roadway are creating the hardship that are impacting the buffers that exist on the stream. The sidewalk will be improved similar to the property adjacent to us to the west. So they were required to put in a sidewalk and grass strip in accordance with the MCSP. And so we will be matching their sidewalk and grass strip similarly, and they also put in their turn lane too. So it's really continuing that left-hand turn lane that was installed with the Beezer townhome project immediately to our west. And so we'll have a similar grass strip and similar sidewalk width that in the future, per the MCSP, if the roadway gets widened further, then the sidewalk won't have to be moved again in the future. Again, the stream is where it is, the road is where it is today. None of the development that we're proposing as it relates to drives, parking, roads, stormwater, BMPs, any of those things impact the Zone 1 and Zone 2 buffer that's there on the stream, kind of on the southern side or southern and eastern side of the stream where our development actually is proposed. So these improvements are required as part of really Public Works recommendations for approval and the traffic impact study, and then also the MCSP. So we are proposing a three-sided box culvert. As you can see, the culvert there where our driveway is, and those disturbances would be allowed under the current stormwater management manual for a three-sided box culvert in a perpendicular driveway crossing. We only have one driveway crossing. We did do a jurisdictional determination for the property, and that was classified as an intermittent stream. So we did use the three-sided box culvert. We have applied for ARAP from TDEC just for the crossing. Even though it's a three-sided, TDEC still likes to have ARAP approval. So we have submitted that and actually received that this week. The mitigation proposed is the installation of new landscaping along the western frontage, what I refer to as the western frontage. So mixture of hardwoods, understories, and some shrubs. And then on the eastern frontage, we will be preserving existing hardwood vegetation in the Zone 1 and Zone 2 buffer and installing the stream buffer signage. Through conversations with staff, I think that we would be open to not maintaining the Zone 1 buffer on the western frontage, just kind of letting that go natural. I mean, our goal is to plant these trees. We want to be able to maintain them and get in there and remove invasive species. So I think that, we don't have to mow right to the edge of the buffer. We could kind of let that go a little bit more natural. There are some existing trees out there within that buffer. Whatever's in that buffer today that is healthy and living will remain. The western frontage, it has a few trees sprinkled in. You can see kind of there on your screens in the area, you'll see some shadows of some trees. So all those would remain as existing, and we'll be supplementing those with additional landscaping to provide better riparian buffer for the stream. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have regarding the project or the proposed impacts and/or mitigation.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of or in opposition to the applicant's request? Seeing none, let's turn it over to the committee for questions of the applicant or discussion.
Is the sidewalk placed to account for the future expansion of the road, or is that all everything gonna have to get moved and regraded when they?
The sidewalk's placed based on the MCSP and the future right-of-way width of Charlotte Pike.
Okay. So hopefully the bank restabilization that you're doing would not have to be reworked.
That I would hope so.
Okay.
Yes.
All of the work you're doing within the buffer area is either related to, one, you've got to get access to your property, or two, the improvements that Metro is requesting?
Correct. Obviously, the driveway crossing would be permitted as a perpendicular three-sided crossing under the current manual.
That's the only access you have to your property.
There's one in the rear along Happelwood, but it does not cross any streams or environmental features.
Okay, so there are two. Okay,
you've got another access.
Right, and then fire code would require 2 points
That's
of
what
access.
that's what I was questioning that. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, and I don't know if it is applicable to this site, but I did want to state for the record that as it relates to buffers and traffic patterns, you can maintain buffer areas to maintain safe sight lines for traffic. So buffers can be modified for that purpose, and if that's ever a question, the site can consult with staff, but that's in our regulations.
Thank you. It is a concern, vehicular safety is obviously paramount. We don't want any vegetation to obstruct the sight triangles.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance request as requested. For reasons that all the variances are generally requested or needed because of the requirements that the city's requiring to the road and access. And then there's no question they have a hardship. They've got to get across the creek to access their property. So those are the reasons for my approval, motion for approval.
I'll second the motion.
So there's a motion on the floor to approve the variance request as requested. It's been seconded. Any discussion among the committee regarding the motion?
Does that, or should we, there was the staff comment about not mowing zone 1. I think the applicant agreed, assuming that it was safe and things like that.
Yeah, I think that is something that we can definitely commit to not mowing zone 1 along this frontage here.
Was the not mowing and continuous maintenance part of the request?
Yes. Continual mowing and maintenance of zone 1 stream buffer, and I think that we can modify that request to eliminate the mowing. We just want to be able to get in there and, if there's dead trees or limbs or whatever, and clean it up. We don't want, it'd be a.
So did I understand that perhaps that was a motion to modify the existing proposal?
Yes, so it may include maintenance but not mowing in zone 1.
Okay, so there's a motion to amend the existing motion, is that correct? To remove the allowance of mowing zone 1. Do we hear a second for that?
I'll second it.
All right, there's a second. So now the existing motion on the table is a motion to approve the variance as requested except for the mowing of zone 1.
And I have one question too. Why are you not putting signs up? I must have missed that.
That was a conversation with staff, discussion. If you're going to mow or maintain the buffer, they didn't want the signs there because it's confusing for people.
Okay.
Okay.
There's a motion on the floor. The motion is to approve as requested except for the allowance of mowing in zone 1. Let's put it up for a vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the variance request passed with the exception of not mowing in zone 1. Thank you. It appears that's all of the items in our cases to be heard agenda. I don't see any existing business items. Are there any new business items that need to be discussed? That's good. With that, I see a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
So moved. A second?
Second.
We've got a motion on the floor to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. That's It's August.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.